In a time of crisis, when the legitimacy of the presidency itself was at stake, Johnson turned to a friend and a neighbor, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
Lyndon Johnson called the head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. Now you've got to understand, they lived across the street from each other for 30 years. They were close personal friends. I do not know what they said in that crucial telephone call. I don't know. But I know both men, I knew both men, I knew them well. And I think I'm entitled to speculate. You know what I think he said? I think Lyndon Johnson said to J. Edgar Hoover, and knowing Lyndon Johnson, he would have said it just about this way: Edgar, I want you to save your country.
Within an hour of the arrest of Lee Harvey Oswald, he had confirmed that it was a lone assassin for purely personal reasons that shot him. And that was Hoover's instantaneous vision. He got that sitting at his desk on the banks of the Potomac. And instantaneous. And many FBI agents, even at the local level, they wanted to go with this lone assassin theory, they called the lone nut theory. They immediately would move that way.
He had Oswald as a red. He had Oswald working in the building where the shots came from. If there wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, would have to invent it because he has the proper credentials. So that in virtually every aspect of the first material coming in to put a context or put a picture on what has happened in Dallas, Hoover is wrong. But on one thing he is certain before the day is over, virtually certain, and that is that Lee Harvey Oswald is the man.
The lone assassin theory was not an easy theory to sell. After all, Lee Harvey Oswald was a political animal. He had defected to Russia in 1959 and had a Russian wife. He had worked publicly for fair play for Cuba, and his activities had been monitored for years by both the CIA and the FBI. If Hoover was going to argue that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, he would have to provide a motive that made sense, one that would be powerful enough to result in the death of a president. Hoover argued that the motivation was not ideological, but instead psychological.
It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son, but I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder. They'll put him away now, as I should have, years ago. He was always bad. And in the end, he intended to tell them I killed those girls and that man, as if I could do anything except just sit and stare, like one of his stuffed birds. Oh, they know I can't even move a finger, and I won't. I'll just sit here and be quiet, just in case they do suspect me.
Playing into the great psychological themes of the 1960s, J. Edgar Hoover was able to find a monster even greater than Oswald. He found Oswald's mother.
He was a happy-go-lucky youngster, actually. He had a dog, he had a bicycle, he belonged to the Y. He used to go to the Y and go swimming. I know many a time while at work he'd come in to see me from the Y, wringing wet, and it would be in the winter time. And I'd tell him he was going to catch cold because his hair was still wet, like all boys. He wouldn't dry himself thoroughly. We know, and it's sad and unfortunate, that Lee was deprived of his father, and he was born 2 months after his father had expired. But we must understand that Lee had 2 brothers, so he was not raised just with a woman alone.
J. Edgar Hoover made his case clear. In his official report on the assassination, issued within weeks after the killing of Kennedy, he came right out and concluded that Oswald, quote, was said to be suffering the impact of existing emotional isolation and deprivation, lack of affection, absence of family life, and rejection by a self-involved and conflicted mother, end quote. So that was that. No international conspiracy, no right-wing menace. A simple, crazed, lone gunman. A psycho with a rifle and a mother. Case closed. Lyndon Johnson was so pleased with this solution that he personally telephoned J. Edgar Hoover and congratulated him, saying, quote, "I have more confidence in your judgment than anybody in town," end quote. the country could move on. But it didn't.
We think we're right in what we're doing right here. We believe in what we're doing. We want this man released. We want him released right now.
And just what happened?
Justified in what he did.
And what happened?
John Ruby killed the man that killed our president.
What's all the excitement going around right now?
These people right here, I don't know what they are or what they think they represent. But we're right in what we're doing. We're going to keep on doing it. Who are they to say? Are they Cubans? They come from Cuba. That doesn't make any difference. I'm not saying anybody's at fault.
How do you feel about this?
Well, I think he should be released because he killed our president, and I think the president was the best man in the whole world. And
Correct yourself. He killed the man that killed our president. She's a little upset from here.
He killed the man that killed our president, and I don't think that man had any right to shoot him.
The public was not ready to close the case on the Kennedy assassination. Against his wishes, Johnson had to involve the Attorney General and begin discussions about a presidential commission. Robert Kennedy would not take part in the investigation, but instead his duties were assigned to Nicholas Katzenbach, the second Assistant Attorney General.
We know that in the probably a little after noon on the 24th of November, that's a Sunday, Nicholas Katzenbach at home in his study with no secretary available wrote out in longhand his famous memorandum for Mr. Moyer. And he said that we have to show the American people that the evidence is such that Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president. And he more or less said that we have to make Oswald the assassin. We have to quiet the discontent within the country. At the time that is happening, LBJ is then talking to Hoover saying that he does not want a presidential commission, when in fact he had just gotten off the phone with Katzenbach telling him he wanted one. It's very Byzantine. It's hard to believe that people operate this way on such an important issue, but in fact they did.